Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
All right.
I assume you're Rory.
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Nice to
So
meet you.
I'm just doing some interviews to highlight local musicians and artists.
Cool.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, we're gonna get right into it, eh? Okay. I'm Steve from Belvedere, and I'm a Calgary musician. Belvedere's a Calgary-based band, and that's all I got.
Okay. How did you guys meet?
So the band started in 1995. We started as a three-piece with two guys that ended up leaving the band later on in the 90s, and we went through a few members. And the first guy I met at a record store, and another guy I went to school with. And yeah, we just started as a three-piece jamming in his basement, and never would have thought I would probably be doing this in my 40s.
How'd you get the name?
Belvedere came from the old 80s sitcom Mr. Belvedere. And I think given how generic the name Belvedere is with Belvedere vodka and cigarettes and towns in Italy and France, I probably would have come up with something maybe a little bit different. But we also didn't think we were going to be doing 25 years worth of touring. So
Who inspires you?
I'd say that Bad Religion was a big inspiration for the band pretty early on. It was one of the first punk bands that I listened to when I was 14 or 15. And so once I got into Bad Religion, then of course came the NoFX and Pennywise and lots of Fat and Epitaph bands. So that led me down the punk rock path. A lot of bands that are on your wall right behind you, actually. So
What has been your favorite show or performance as a band, or one of them?
um, I think the first time we toured Europe, that was a big one for me. Mostly just because I didn't think we'd ever get there. We spent a lot of time touring in this, in the '90s in the States. And once we got there, I think that first show, we flew into Holland, and then we started the next day in Belgium, and that was pretty memorable. We've had a lot of memorable moments. We just played this really big festival in Colombia. One of the last shows we actually played in Medellin, and that was great too. Japan's always good. European festivals are always good. So yeah, lots of good memories.
What's your favorite thing about being in a band?
I think the travel is the biggest thing. I like kind of getting in the mix with things too. So I'm a booking agent as well, and I manage a few bands, and so I do like the Tetris puzzle of putting together a show and routing a tour and getting the back line and all the things when everybody else shows up and goes, wow, how did all this stuff happen? It's like, oh, well, that's what I've been doing the last 6 months. So that's kind of the exciting part for me. And then of course, getting up and traveling the world and playing is big. But meeting and conversing with people in the audience, it's half the fun for me.
What's one of your favorite things to see when you're performing on stage?
I see a lot of light shining at me generally. So I like seeing people sing along. That's always a good time. Yeah, people having a good time. That's usually the best part of it.
What about your songwriting process? How does that happen?
So we've always kind of been kind of music first. Some people are really good at just writing lyrics out of their heads and writing songs around them. That's not really always it's really hasn't been how we've done it. We've always kind of done, you know, put together some riffs, and it's sort of expanded into a full song. And then if we're lucky, we're able to demo that stuff, and then I can take it back and write lyrics to it. So I usually need a sort of a midnight till 4 a.m. kind of window to write what I think are better lyrics. So it usually goes into that timeline, and then from there we get into the harmonies and tweaking the melody and all that.
Is recording this newer album any different than the last album?
Yeah. Like before when we first started, it was like, oh, we let's book 4 days in the studio and record a whole album, which you just wouldn't even think of now. We're lucky in that we have a little bit more time, and we're able to kind of listen to things a lot longer. And Like our drummer runs a studio, Casey. His studio is Echo Based Studio, and so we're able to go in there and spend weeks developing songs. So that's the biggest thing, is just the time factor.
Did you guys produce this album or did someone else?
Casey and I produced this newest album, so he was there for the entire recording. He tracked it, did the engineering on it, and then him and I made the final decisions on things.
I heard that you guys got some recent members, like not too recent, but like a year ago. Is that right?
Yeah, about a year and a half ago, a couple of the guys left. You get into your 40s after 20 some years of touring, and it's just not for everybody anymore. So Dan is our new guitar player, and I say new. He's been around. This will be 2 years this summer, and then Ryan came a few months after that. So yeah, both Calgary guys. Ryan lives in Toronto now, but he's from Calgary originally, and we know both the guys. Casey especially knows him because he's been roommates with Ryan before, and Dan's actually played in other bands that have tracked at his studio. So we did some trying out, and those guys made the cut.
Having new members, does that change the sound of your band or the style you guys play at all?
Not the style, but for sure. Like I think it's almost impossible to have it sound exactly the same. You do your best to try to put out things that you think Belvedere fans would like, but it is going to sound a little bit different. But the thing that's really great about these guys is not only are they playing, but they're also contributing songwriters. So we were able to sit there and really work on songs together, which for me really made it better for me, the whole experience, because we spent time working on the songs, and everybody threw something at it, which is awesome, which is what you want when you collaborate with a band.
Do you have any future plans for this album? Are you planning any tours when you can do shows again or
Yeah, so I think we canceled 90 shows last year, 3 Europe tours, a Mexico tour, a bunch of Canada stuff, some South America, I think, as well. So we're gonna try and make up as much as we can. I've had to readjust tour plans probably 3 or 4 times, and so I'm hoping that at the end of this year we can do Europe and the UK again. And if not at the end of the year, then by April next year, as long as things are okay. And same thing with the Canada stuff. As soon as we can kind of make it up, we will.
what are some obstacles you think are in Calgary for emerging artists?
Hmm. Well, like we're a Calgary-based band, and the thing with Calgary is that it's got a good scene, and there's bands are supportive of each other. But we don't have the big industry that they do in Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. So you can, like a lot of bands do, they just kind of go, oh well, nothing ever happens for me. But we always took the sort of the idea that, well, if they're not there, we'll go to them. So we started touring and playing a lot of cities. In fact, we're doing better in some cities than we were in our own hometown. So I think that's the biggest thing, is people have to sort of get over this whole, you know, waiting for something to happen. You got to make stuff happen. You got to get out there. You got to play with bands. Try to play with any bands you can that maybe come to Calgary. Try to link up with them and do little tour trades. That was one of the biggest things that we did when we were younger, is we would do these little weekend tours. We met Choke, and so we went and did 2 shows with them in Edmonton, and we did some shows with them in Calgary, and then we took them to the States after that. So like the relationships develop, and you know 25 years later we're still friends with bands like that. So I think yes, it's in a way it's an obstacle that Calgary's not a big market like in LA or Toronto, but take that and turn it into a positive. Don't just say, well, how do I do this? Like, there's lots of people you can ask. I'm one of them.
How important do you think an all ages music scene is?
Well, it's very important. It's really what got our start. Before we were doing well in cities like Toronto, Montreal, we were playing all the youth centers and basement shows, and whoever would put us on, and all ages, especially in Calgary here, was a big thing for us in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Now our crowd has gotten old like we are, and they all go to bar shows and wherever else. So I know that it's a struggle for the punk scene to have these all ages shows. But I think what's been great about Graham and his group is that he's still puts the time and effort into putting on shows that everybody can go to, even if they're not of age, which is awesome. And it's one of the things that I think Canada and the States struggles with a little bit, because we don't have those big, a ton of festivals like they do in Europe. That's one of the reasons why music is so, it's doing so well there. It's thriving because every year a new crop of kids can come in and go with their parents or their uncles or their friends. They can be 15, 16, have a beer, go watch a festival and show, and get into these bands. So it would be nice if we were able to do that a little bit more here in North America.
Do you have any advice for young musicians that you wish someone told you?
Yeah, I think, you know, we never did it the easy way, right? Like, we're not a radio band. We've definitely had a lot of success over the years, but it's been like little incremental things. And I think the biggest thing is to don't ever let ambition, or that push to, got to get the next tour, got to get the next record, got to get the next label. Don't let that cloud why you play music in the first place, because your love of playing music is what is going to keep you in it 25 years. It's certainly not going to be the money. It's not going to be the 23 hours of the day that you have to sit in a van or wait in a venue. It's the love of playing. So as long as you focus on writing music with your friends and enjoying performing it, I think you'll be okay.
Well, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for coming out and taking the time to do this interview. Is there
You're welcome.
anything else you'd like to say before we end?
Yeah, nothing. Just support your all ages scenes, and support bands when you get a chance to, when things are a little more normal. And Belvedere has its sixth album coming out. Hindsight is the Sixth Sense, coming out on Thousand Island Records here in North America.
All right, sweet. Thank you.
Thanks, Rory. Have a good night.
Yeah, you as well.